right, folks, grab a seat and pour your drink neat as Whiskers and Whiskeys presents Tales of the Trophies, Best of the Rest, Season 4. I'm Mike with EJ. How's it going, pal?
I don't want to talk about it.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about how this is the last trophy of this season. And what that means is we're at the end of the regular season here. I mean, obviously, this week is it. This is it's bittersweet. I feel like we always say that, but like it's bittersweet for us particularly as a podcast because it's rivalry week, right? So you have a lot of trophies, a lot of rivalries that deserve trophies being played this week, but it also then signals, the end of the regular season and only a few more college football games left this season. Ugh.
Pour it out here. Pour it out for the home. I actually got okay, cheers, bud.
Cheers.
Oh, that is good. I brought back the 99 proof Wayne Gretzky aged in cab bottles, right? Yeah, aged in cab sav bottles. It was so good. I think we had a great episode when I drank that last time, so let's run it back. That being said, I will say, I was thinking about this. I was like, oh boy, it is rivalry week. It's the last week of the season, but I do think that there is one thing that if there no matter any detractor, I think of the college football, the expanded playoff to 12 teams or like the way the conferences are formed now, I feel like we got more out of this season. I feel like having a rivalry week light happening in week 3 and like many more meaningful games happening in week 11 and week 12. I just feel like we got more juice out of the season. And I also don't feel like it's over. Like when we get to rivalry, even like the month of November in years past, it's like, oh man, it's almost over. Like it's done, No, I don't feel like that at all. I mean, like, because we got, rivalry week, Army Navy, conference championships, and then we're gonna have meaningful football played again shortly thereafter that with the first round of the playoff. And like that's the awesome. That's like if there's one thing that the playoff did, it's just like extended a really meaningful football because like there is, bowl games are great and they absolutely mean something. I love watching them, but it's like you go like a whole month without seeing like top tier teams playing, and now we're at least gonna see the top 12 teams, some of the top 12 teams. I don't know. Did they just drop it? Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know. I don't know that they're any good because one thing from this weekend is the past 2 weeks, it's like, you go into the playoffs. No, Georgia and Tennessee, like, no, Bama, A&M, you guys got this. And then Bama, A&M, and Ole Miss are like, oh, no, Georgia and Tennessee, you silly gooses, you get into the playoffs.
Yeah, so I will say, don't you look. I want to do like a live reveal here because I want this will make it better.
This is great. This is great.
No, I will say I agree with you there. Where one, I didn't realize that until I was typing in our spreadsheet of our pick'em selections because we keep track of that.
Hey, look who's top 2, by the way.
I know.
Top 2. Yeah,
I know. That there is an extra week, so that there is an added week because of second buys that teams are getting now. And I agree with you though because now, I mean, we like bowl season, but to be truthful, like outside of fun watching maybe like a Pop-Tart bowl or something like that, I mean, there's just and rightfully so. Students that have an NFL future next year don't play, right? So unless you're in the playoff, which has only been 2 days worth, like 2 rounds worth, what is that? 3 total games. It's not as fun. You kind of get me, there's a lot of games going on, but you only get maybe 1 or 2 gems, right? In addition to the playoff. No. But now you're right. Now we have, 4 games. An additional 8 more games. And
meaningful games.
Them playing on campuses.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
So I will agree with you there where this is, I think it hasn't hit me yet. Right. And it's like, it's sad but I haven't taken enough time to think about like the potential yet to get giddy about it yet. And I think it's around Christmas time too. So you're really mashing together like some great NFL end of season games with this.
Yeah. We get 2 extra weeks. Like that's the thing. It's 2 extra weeks of meaningful football. Like again, I mean, you talk like there's only some gems in there, but you and me are degenerates. We'll watch all the filth, all the slop. You know, give me Toledo against San Jose State. I don't give a fuck on Tuesday, on a random Tuesday in December. I'm down. Like you know, but in the Brute Sun Bowl or whatever, you know. But okay, I can't wait any longer.
It's like it's like the show started, so like. I don't have a TV with ESPN.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, within like eye shot. So it's so why ESPN Plus doesn't carry ESPN? Like, come on, guys.
They don't?
No, it's still technically owned by cable companies. Now, I think the future of ESPN Plus is going to bring home ESPN and ESPN2, but currently, unless you have a cable subscription,
I could pull it up because do you have Comcast?
Just for internet. We haven't done cable because it just ends up being so expensive, and I own every streaming service anyway. So it's just like what we watch on cable. We have Fubo, so like, I guess
that's
I
right.
could
You do.
Oh, never mind. I guess I could pull that up on my phone.
Yeah, I was gonna pull up Fubo. There you go.
I do watch. Yes. What else was I gonna say to you though before this came up? So we were talking about the bowl games, the end of the season here, the rivalries. I feel like I had something else to say to you about that, but yeah, no, I'm excited. Oh, here we go. Of course. Why do you start the rankings down at 20? Like it's even with 12 people, I don't give a shit who's 20 and 19 right now.
They're laying pipe, but they
barely 18 here. I don't even know. Do you want me to tell you what these 3 are? Because obviously it's gonna eliminate.
No, wait
until it's all.
Yeah. Wait.
All right. Well, why don't we talk about what's next for us a little bit? So this is obviously the last episode of our Tales of the Trophy. But we still have plenty of episodes to do. Now, I think, we really, truthfully, listeners, we haven't really talked through this yet, but
sure haven't. Flying by the seat of our pants.
But I assume what we know we want to do is we have to get back to our predictions, our preseason predictions, and that was to give you a reminder who we thought was going to get into each championship game, who was going to ultimately be the champion of each Power 4 conference, and then who was going to make the playoff. Mm-hmm. And so what I was thinking was, why don't we do that for next week, right? We can jump right in. Problem is we have to have championship week happen, right? Because it's like, we can at least, I think it'd be silly for us to talk about it when then we have to talk about it again right after, right?
Yeah.
So
there are implications of champ. Is Arizona State going to get in, or is some random ass Big 12 school going to get in? So
yes. So what I think we'll do is we'll have probably a break next week, but then following championship week, which actually happens before Army Navy. So we'll have championship week will happen next weekend. Not this coming up weekend, but the following weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And then that next week, we'll that's when we'll talk about our predictions. We'll know who's in the playoff by then. So then we'll do that. And then
that's right. Army Navy's week 16.
Yeah, they do it afterwards.
Not how they do it in NCAA, but
because they don't also it doesn't count as a conference game for them.
Gotcha.
So it's just kind of, I don't know. Just a meaningless, which in this year it actually would be pretty meaningful.
Yes.
But yeah, so what we'll do, and then we haven't hashed it out exactly yet. So we'll probably give you exact details at the end of our preseason playoff prediction episode, but we are going to do something with the playoff. So I think we're obviously there's going to be a bracket. I think we're going to do another competition. So we're just like ironing out the final details of what that competition is going to be with our Pick'em Challenge competition ending after championship week. So we'll do another competition with the bracket, and then I think what we're going to do is also have we're going to sit here and we act like we know what we're talking about, and I feel like we know a decent amount.
We know a thing or two.
Yeah. So I think it would be fun for us to actually kind of put on our analyst hats, if that's what you want to consider it, and talk through the bracket. And I think what we'll do is then while we're talking through the bracket, the breakdown of the matchups for the first round, I think then we'll reveal our brackets separately that we'll put in, for our competition, our bracket competition. So
I like it.
So just give you a heads up, and then what we'll do again is that's for the first round. And then the quarterfinals, I think we'll talk about what had happened. Then we'll talk about the games, on the schedule, break it down again, and so on and so forth, and just try something out. We really haven't done something like that yet, so
maybe we can sprinkle in a fun little thing too, like we do episodes where it's first half of the episode is some analysis and stuff like that, and then second half of the episode, or we could do this as separate episodes. We could do like I really like Brandon Walker and Big T do that, like stop when you see a better jersey thing, that they do like for TikTok, or stop when you see a better quarterback or whatever it is. We could do something like that instead of, I think it's a little bit hard whenever it's a little bit hard to do because like we have to, or speak when you see, it's a little hard to do whenever it's the two of us, right? Because one of us would have to prepare the list. Maybe we both prepare a list of like 10 or so of whatever the topic is, and we just, I start, right? Or we agree on a baseline to start with. We do a coin flip, I start and present my list. And whenever you see someone better than who was initially presented, you stop me, and then you start with your list. And then we go through and see how we go until we're remaining. That might not take all that long, but it'll probably spark some conversation discussion. So,
I also think what you sent me yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, and my idea about how to handle that, I think would be fun too. And I think it would be fun to do before the end of the season, even though it'll be kind of, we could save it for next year, but I don't know. I think it would be fun for us to do.
Yeah. I forgot. What did I send you yesterday? Yeah, that I am going to take some time off around Christmas, so I could definitely.
I think nothing crazy, and there's probably not going to be a ton to do on your end because of.
Well, no. Did you see the original post?
Oh no, but I did see something else. Pictured.
It's based off of. Yeah, there's some history there.
Okay.
I think just based on the picture, I have to do some research.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that would be a fun idea. So we have another fun episode that we haven't done. 4 seasons, and we really haven't done this. And I feel like we've done a decent amount. We've had teachers on here. We've done, jersey drafts, conference realignment, all sorts of stuff. But this is something that we have not done yet, and I think it'll be a fun change of pace.
It'll be innovative.
It definitely will be. And they're just slow rolling this. We're at number 7 right now. So we're into the playoff field, but we are not complete.
Well,
do you want me to, why don't I, by the time I start at 20 and slowly get your reaction on our way up.
Yeah.
I think it might be
start at 12, because then I don't know who's been left out, right? If you start at 20 and work your way up, then like I'll know, like if they say Alabama's 13, then like that erases any shock of like them letting them in. So start at 12.
Okay. We will start at
where are they? 7?
Yeah, but they're doing this so sloppily.
Because I know,
like the broadcast isn't like I'm trying to pull up people that are like actively tweeting about it, because they have it. They have it like they only showing 5 at a time in groupings.
Oh,
so like I don't. Yeah, and then it's disappearing.
Spoiler alert: Oregon's won, Ohio State's 2. or vice versa. But I would just, well, no, it can't be. Oregon's won Ohio State's too. Let me just get that one out of the way for you.
Yes, you are correct, and they just put them up very quickly because I
Yeah,
think
of course they did. Yeah, and Texas is 3, Penn State's 4. Like I think we can be, we're pretty safe on that.
All right, let me take a screenshot here just so. Oh no, I did the wrong buttons. Don't you do it. Don't stay. Okay, I guess I can just pause it, huh?
All right, yeah,
Okay,
well,
you ready?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, rankings and whether or not you're in the playoff is.
That's true. Very different.
So, how do you want me to do this then? Because the.
Do rankings because we'll be able to figure out who's in the playoff or not. So,
Okay, 12. Clemson.
probably not in the playoff.
11 is Boise.
In the playoff.
Indiana is 10.
Fringe. Okay.
SMU, but I mean, if they're already starting at 10, they're not likely to move unless they like. If they win the last game, they're in, right? Like
Yeah.
they're not likely to get bounced.
Yeah.
SMU at 9, Tennessee
like
at
that.
8,
Okay.
Georgia at 7,
That makes sense.
Miami at 6,
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame at 5,
Mm-hmm.
Penn State at 4,
Mm-hmm.
Texas,
This is Ohio State.
Ohio State, Oregon.
So Bama's out.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not gonna get back in unless Tennessee loses.
Mm-hmm.
Or Georgia. Well, yeah, if Tennessee or Georgia lose, Bama might be able to get back in. Clemson's probably out, right? Because at this point you have Oregon, because Boise's in. Actually, I guess
Who are we missing?
oh, Arizona State. Arizona State is going to bounce someone.
16,
Yeah,
ranked 16.
16?
Uh-huh.
That feels super disrespectful. Yeah,
Three-loss team, though, I think.
they'll bounce 2-loss team. They'll
Two-loss
bounce.
team.
They'll bounce Clemson then. That's a shame.
Yeah, you hate to see it. So how this would work then is Boise would get the home playoff game, though, because they're ranked 11th. So you would have it's yeah. So as it stands right now, it's because BYU shit the bed. Boise's looking like a bye, which is insane.
Holy hell!
Which is going to set up some
awesome.
awesome on campus first round matches.
So they're going to be the 4 seed. So they potentially host. I mean, if things kind of stand where they are now, they might host the winner of Penn State and Notre Dame.
Well, so that's what people were talking about is like people, analysts. And I guess I didn't think about it just because it's never happened before and haven't really thought too much about it. But you want to be the 5. The 5 is the sweet spot because, I mean, obviously you play an extra game. Like, I guess, there's something worth having a bye. But the 5 gets the 12, so hosts the 12 on campus, and then gets the 4 in the next round. Okay. So if you're Notre Dame and you're looking down the barrel of Arizona State at home and then Boise in a neutral site, I mean, it's horseshit. I really wish it wasn't Notre Dame at that spot, but like,
is Notre Dame or Penn State ranked higher?
Penn State's ranked higher, so
it'll be Penn State.
Oh yeah, you're right because
it'll be Ohio State. It'll be Ohio State.
Yeah, this is so confusing because of the rankings and the automatic bids don't match up. You're right.
Oh my god.
So it's Ohio State would get a free pass to the semifinals, essentially.
Oh my god. Well, they need to win the big. Oregon needs to win the Big Ten. Holy shit! Could you imagine if the Sun Devils go to Columbus and knock them off? Like it'll never happen. But could you imagine the outrage? 30 degrees, snowing, and the Sun Devils come in and heat up the horseshoe and knock off the Buckeyes.
Yeah.
Oh. Or Ohio State having to go to. Oh my God, it's gonna be Ohio State. Please, Oregon. Please, Dan Lanning. Lanning.
Hold on.
Dan Lanning, don't screw this up. I need you. I need you to beat Ohio State. I need Oregon to be the Big Ten champ. I need Oregon to beat Ohio State so bad. Oh, I like I I just I need to see Ryan Day lose his freaking mind. Oh, oh, it'd be so good.
So as it stands, oh wow, okay. So as it stands right now, which obviously, sorry, I didn't mean to be blocking. I'm just trying to
Sorry.
pull this. This is what we would be looking at for a first round. Again, obviously, it's gonna change, but this is still. It was exciting to hear about it last week, and it's exciting this week. So Ohio State would host Arizona State in Columbus. Winner plays Boise,
Hmm.
neutral site.
Oh my god, I need that. I
Then
oh, I
we're
need it so bad.
going between the hedges, right? That's Athens. Is that between the
Yep.
hedges?
Hmm.
Georgia hosting the Volunteers, with the winner then facing Oregon in the next round.
Okay.
Penn State hosting Indiana at Happy Valley. Winner takes on Miami.
They need to just they need to just switch Tennessee and and who and Indiana, and I'd be happy with that. But okay, I don't want to see
Then
a
Notre
conference
Dame
championship again.
hosting SMU
Yeah,
in South Bend. I'm just
yeah,
thinking like well, three of the four games could have weather implication, which just sounds awesome.
yeah.
And then the winner of SMU Notre Dame, which I don't know, Pony Express baby, then goes to well, I guess they don't go to Austin, then they play Texas. So that's it's interesting. It's that whole wrinkle of who gets a first round bye is going to be very interesting because how it's set up is there's a lot of obviously you have the independent and Notre Dame that's highly ranked. Then you have a lot of, in theory, runner ups that are higher
Yeah,
ranked than eventual conference winners.
yeah,
So then that really kind of throws, whether regardless of how you're ranked, the seeding is going to be kind of wonky
they
in a good
got
way.
the logic right on
Yeah.
this one. They got the logic super duper right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
great.
it'll be interesting. So then the question becomes who's playing spoiler? Is Vandy gonna keep out the Volunteers from the playoff? Could you imagine?
Oh my gosh.
Is Georgia Tech gonna get? They're plucky. They're plucky. This is even. I think people forget last year because I mean we obviously know about the clean old fashioned hate, but that was a one possession game last year,
But
and I'm gonna say that Georgia Tech is considerably better this year.
it's in Athens. If it was in Atlanta, but like Georgia Tech hasn't played super well away from Atlanta this year. The spread's like 19 and a half.
That doesn't mean anything. We've seen we've
It's
seen
true.
we've seen outright losses, let alone not covers.
That's true.
Few
That's
times
true.
from a few power
Few
SEC
times.
schools, right?
Few times, yeah.
Now, I won't get on my soapbox here, but you were talking about just how incredible this season has been. Now, just imagine if the best conference in the country decided to play, 9 conference games and
Well,
what
I
this could
mean,
look like.
hell, we're gonna find out a lot about the SEC in the playoff because either everyone's really good or everyone's really bad, and I lean towards everyone being really bad. Uh, just
I don't,
sloppy,
no,
stupid football.
now, mind you, I'm not saying like the SEC is bad, but it's clearly not as dominant as it has been. And I don't know. It would be very interesting, right? Like, and it kind of stinks. End of the year, like, Tennessee shouldn't be playing UTEP. Like, whoever Georgia beat the breaks off. Like, that shit shouldn't happen in week 13. Like, come
Mm,
on, just play one more conference game. You'll be fine. I mean, it just would add to the chaos that's already ensuing. Or if you're that team, fuck's the matter, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're gonna beat anyone anyway. So
That's true. That's true. I don't know, man. I mean, the Georgia game's weird too because they struggled against UMass uh
yeah,
this
yeah,
past weekend.
yeah.
So
I know. That's why I'm saying like people aren't going to talk about the Yellow Jackets, but if what's his name, the quarterback, if that dude's
uh
healthy, I ain't counting them out.
Yeah.
And there's no Kirby anger bounce back bullshit either, right? They're in the playoff. There's no of that, like, okay, but
no,
this is a
he
Kirby
hates
spot, right?
he beats the shit out of Georgia's rivals. Like he really
But does he
likes to
think of
stick
them
it
as
to
a
him.
rival? Like that's where I would start to think, like, is Georgia Tech something that they circle? Like I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no. And they haven't had to, mind you. They haven't had
Yeah,
to. This year?
yeah.
Oh, I was hoping it was
I'd
like
love it.
Atlanta.
I'd love it.
I
I mean,
know.
I would love if Georgia and Tennessee both blow it and just give it right back to Bama. That would be fantastic. But
Well, there's no guarantee. I mean, I know you're not feeling great about it. I'm feeling a little better about Bama bouncing back. Given it being in Tuscaloosa, Auburn coming off that huge win, um, as well. But I don't know. I'm just trying to look here. Does Arizona, do they get Arizona State? I mean, I know that's not like the sexy drop off, that you're thinking, but I'm trying to
I mean,
just look through
that offense could, do things like we've
right.
seen it. They are capable of it. They just,
Who are the Canes play? Trying to think of, like, who are some of these teams. So Ohio State, like, they're gonna try and pile it on Michigan, but is that voodoo? I mean, I would love for them to murder Michigan, but is there some voodoo there?
Miami goes to Syracuse.
It's interesting.
It's interesting.
Do they
Yeah.
get sleepy on that? Where does SMU play? I don't know. It's just like, who's gonna? I feel
SMU
like,
has Cal coming to. Well,
oh, but it's in
it,
Texas. It's not
yeah,
in, okay, not in Berkeley.
yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. I just have this feeling. Like I told you a couple weeks ago when I was like, this just feels like a weekend where there's going to be upsets, and
We've had a lot of those.
and I'm
You throw
and
a
I'm
dart.
just I'm wondering, who's it gonna, does USC complicate this?
Speaking of USC, who do they play this weekend?
Oh, they play Notre Dame.
Oh, really? Do they have a trophy for that game?
You know what they do, and everyone, that was accidental, but it was also a perfect segue. The final episode of season 4, the Jeweled Shillelagh, another Shillelagh, the last Shillelagh.
The last of the Mohicans, the last of the Shillelaghs.
Mike, I already know you know what this bad boy looks like.
I do.
So why don't I just get right into the history of this? Again, Notre Dame, USC, hated rivals, odd considering the distance, odd considering they've never been in the same conference. But why don't I tell you how we've gotten
How did we get
to this
here?
point?
How did
Well,
we?
the first game was played between these two schools in 1926, and Notre Dame won 13-12.
Oh, wow.
Close game.
Close game.
And this game has been played every year from 1926 till now, with the exceptions of 1943 through 1945, when the game was canceled due to World War II. And in 2020, when the Pac-12 canceled all non-conference games in the wake of COVID-19. So they ended up playing the back half of their conference games, but they did not play any early season non-conference or conference games. So the pandemic interrupted a streak of 73 consecutive years. And then in 2021, the matchup marked the first time in series history that the two schools played consecutively in one spot. So they had played in 19 in South Bend, and instead of changing that, they just kept it in 2021 South Bend, even though they skipped over Los Angeles in 2020.
Gotcha.
And this is actually something really interesting that I had no idea, but I think it's kind of a cool little quirk, is this game is played on the Saturday following Thanksgiving when the game is in Los Angeles, but it's played on either the second or third Saturday of October when it's played in South Bend.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's not just an always end of the year thing. It depends on where it's being played.
Yeah.
Why? No idea.
Huh.
No idea.
That's interesting. What's the
And the overall series, Notre Dame leads it 49 wins to 37 losses to 5 ties.
surprising?
The origins of this rivalry. So
Yes.
before we get into the trophy, how did this become a rivalry? Do you want the fun version or the boring version?
Uh, Give me the veggies first, and then I'll have my dessert afterwards.
Okay. So the boring explanation is given by a college football historian named Murray Sperber, which just seems like a guy that would just, pour cold water on you, right?
Yeah, yeah. Your name's Murray. Yeah, you're pouring the cold water here, Murray.
So he put this in his book. So all of this, what I'm about to give you, is based on his research. He doesn't always go into exactly his sources. So take it with whatever grain of salt you want, but sometimes he just makes proclamations, and there wasn't any additional sourcing unless I bought his book, which, sorry guys, I did not.
Typical Murray.
But it was a Shake Down the Thunder. That was his the name of his book. So he uncovered a few different explanations for the creation of this series that contradicts the fun version. And the fun version is usually the version that they talk about lightly on ESPN, game day, stuff like that. So, they're fun and real people. And in this
case, not named Murray. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is how he describes it. He says that the series was created primarily for financial and political reasons. And what he said is during the 1920s, many institutions, including the Big Ten, which was then called the Western Conference, sought to combat. This is actually hilarious given where we are today.
Yeah.
It sought to combat the commercialization that was steadily increasing in college athletics. Part of the concern over commercialism stemmed from the large money payouts teams would receive by traveling long distances to play in bowl games.
You don't say.
Right. So that's the side of it from most of college football. Notre Dame, while they weren't in the Western Conference / the Big Ten, they kind of still adhered to that similar mindset. But they had they had difficulty scheduling the local opponents because of the ban that was placed on them by member schools from playing them. And I couldn't find, I know it was seared into my memory. We've talked about this with a different rivalry game with Notre Dame, how the Big Ten was pissed at them and wouldn't schedule them. And I couldn't remember. And sorry, listeners, I did not want to go like episode by episode to try and figure it out. But he didn't give any more information. And then when I tried to do just some quick searching, it was nothing was coming up. But at this point in time, just understand Notre Dame. No one wants to play Notre Dame nearby. So they were forced to look more nationally to fill their schedule. So the Irish started winning some of these games against like Georgia Tech, Army, and the game itself started to grow in popularity, and that could command more money for games that it scheduled if Notre Dame was thinking that way. Mm-hmm. So it garnered interest from the Rose Bowl committee because at this time this is Knute Rockne. This is one of the best Notre Dame teams at the time. Oh, that's what it was. It was Michigan. It was Michigan that was having the issues with them.
Gotcha.
Now this is starting to come to me.
Your old nemesis strikes again.
Right. So they Notre Dame got interest from the Rose Bowl committee to have Notre Dame come out and play the Pacific Coast Conference, which was turned into the Pac-12. Now it's
R.I.P. in peace.
R.I.P. For the 1924 football season. So Rockne and the Notre Dame administration realized a lucrative and annual trip to Los Angeles would be for the program. And the Notre Dame's West Coast alumni began lobbying Rockne to bring the team out to the Rose Bowl as a season finale every year. And the Rose Bowl committee favored this arrangement because they favored it. At the time, there's no ties. Okay. So, but the conference itself had reservations. So the committee was about it, the Rose Bowl committee, but the conference as a whole didn't necessarily love that.
Gotcha.
But two member schools, Stanford and Cal, refused to play Notre Dame. And this is why, on account of Notre Dame's low scholastic standards. Does that shock you?
It does not. It does not.
And that was because Notre Dame, being a Catholic school, its academics were considered inferior at the time. They were a little bit more focused on the Catholic side, at least for those elitists on the West Coast.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable the way they turn their nose up.
Yeah. But USC's coach, Gus Henderson, reached out to Rockne through correspondence saying that USC would welcome the chance to play Notre Dame New Year's Day in Pasadena. And while Rockne favored playing USC Stanford, which had won the Pacific Coast Conference title, he had his first choice and eventually realized that playing Notre Dame would be lucrative, and the two played in the 1924 Rose Bowl. So he favored playing either one, Stanford or USC. Obviously, Stanford said no, thank you. So that left USC.
Okay.
So then the series between Notre Dame and USC was just overall pleasing, right, to the alumni, to getting the large payout, like I had said. And they had this standing invitation every year. Let's see here. So this series, though, as I had mentioned before, with Notre Dame in the Big Ten, the Western Conference at the time, not liking this type of arrangement, they justified it naturally because they wanted money, and what I think really cemented it. So they had that initial game out in 1924 in the Rose Bowl. And then what they decided to do was the Gus Henderson, the coach, got fired, and they hired Howard Jones. And Howard Jones is someone that Rockne knew. And allegedly, according to Mr. Murray, that Notre Dame, following the Notre Dame's championship in 1924, Rockne approached USC to take over, or was approached by USC to take over the program. And Rockne did what most people in that situation would do. He entertained it and leveraged it to get a raise from Notre Dame.
There you go.
And bolster his power and position within the program. But he ultimately turned it down, and he recommended that USC look at his friend Howard Jones. And he knew him from playing Iowa. So he had come from Iowa. Howard Jones, Notre Dame played Iowa regularly. And so they got to know each other. And apparently a lot of the decision to hire Jones came because Rockne gave him that recommendation. And so that kind of solidified it wanting to be a longer term rivalry and game, because, at the inception of this, the two coaches were really close friends.
Yeah. So, Rockne gets the pay bump, his buddy gets the job, and then boom, let's turn this into a rivalry.
That's the boring story. It is. It's convoluted. It's kind of,
it's all money,
confusing at time.
Yeah. Listen, we see, everything's about money, these days, right? So, we don't need that. I think he's full of shit. Frankly, I think Murray's full of shit. I think the money had nothing to do with this.
And when you hear the other reason, I'm going to go with my feeling is it's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
Because once you hear this part of it, the other story, you're going to go, yeah, I can see this too.
Preach the gospel to me. Preach the good word. Give me my dessert.
So what is often recounted as the reason why is it was a conversation between wives.
Oh, I'm in.
And that would be of Notre Dame's coach, Knute Rockne, and the USC athletic director, Gwyn Wilson. So many sports writers often cite this story. And I believe that this definitely had a part in it.
If we hold on, let's just pause for a second. If we're talking about like the greatest motivators of men
Right.
in all of time, it's like financial gain,
Yeah.
wealth and treasures,
Yeah.
and their women.
Yeah.
Like it's 1, 2, 1, 2. You might even say that the women have it. I don't know if you heard this lady Helen of Troy. She kind of started a little something back in the day, Yeah, I mean that's okay. I'm in.
So as the story goes, the rivalry began with USC looking for a national rival.
Yes.
And they dispatched their athletic director, Wilson, and his wife to Lincoln, Nebraska. And that's where Notre Dame, so they had already had this idea that Notre Dame would be a good option at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so they sent them to Nebraska because that's where Notre Dame was playing at the time on Thanksgiving. So it's the end of November in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And on that day, Nebraska won 17-0. And Newt Rockne initially resisted the idea of the home and home series with USC because of the travel involved. Right? It's a far ways to go, especially at that year
back in the day.
Yeah. But Mrs. Wilson was able to persuade Mrs. Rockne that a trip every 2 years to sunny California was better than one to snowy, hostile Nebraska.
Yep. Yep. I'm all right believing this being the real story. Yep.
So then Mrs. Rockne spoke to Newt, and on December 4th, 1926, USC became an annual fixture on Notre Dame's schedule.
Listen, my GOAT is obviously Nick Saban, right?
Yeah.
And there's one thing I know about Nick. It's been really cool to see throughout the season. Is just, we've known this over time, but you see it a lot on game day with them getting to interact a lot more in the public eye. Not that they haven't, but you see it a lot more on national television. Miss Terry runs the show.
Yeah.
She runs everything in that house. He is the coach. He's the man on the football field, but she runs everything in that home. And I'm pretty sure that if Miss Terry was like, you know what, maybe we should put the Rainbow Warriors on the schedule every year, I'm pretty sure
Right.
Nick would find a way to make that happen.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah, this tracks. This tracks
Yeah.
very, very much.
Yeah, I have a feeling how it went was like, all right, USC, go find us another opponent, especially for Notre Dame being at the time like, no, we don't want to go to bowl games. Like they actually were part of a bowl game ban. I don't think the Big Ten schools or Notre Dame didn't play in a bowl game until 1970 because of this. Yeah, because of this superiority and fear of commercialism. So
wow. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Good job, guys. It worked out. You saved college football from commercialism. Great
right.
job.
Yeah. I know. They would love where it's at right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do not have a hard time believing. Okay, listen, South Bend blows, and it blows in general, but it definitely blows in the wintertime, and your annual coldest last game of the year is in fucking Lincoln.
Yeah.
And someone said, hey, how about we go to LA? Right?
Yeah.
Like, why don't we go to LA for
Yeah. Well,
and then on the LA side, it's like, fuck, we got to go to South Bend.
No,
but hey,
EJ. This is why. It's whenever it's in Indiana, it's the second or third week in October, and whenever it's the last game of the season, it's in LA. Because why the hell
of a bitch?
Why the hell would you want to go to LA in October when you could go in November? And then if you're USC, you want to go to Indiana whenever it's not balls cold, it's just cold.
I'm sorry, Murray, but you're full of fucking
Yeah.
shit, because that is 1,000% why.
Yes.
1,000%.
Yes, we
Mystery
cracked the
solved.
code.
God damn. Are there college football mysteries? Because I think we could crack them.
Oh, I guarantee there are mysteries out there. Guarantee it.
Son of a bitch. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
That is absolutely why.
Yes.
That's not an accident.
No, it's not.
God damn.
We did it.
We did it.
We did it. Look at us,
guys. All right. We're on a high. Scroll down. Tell them what you see, it's trophy time.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So good. I didn't, I was actually curious about a detail of this trophy and I didn't look at it ahead of time because I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? I'll just save it. Like I obviously know what it looks like, but like want to save some mystery here. So what we have here, folks, is a nice wooden shillelagh. The shillelagh itself is probably what? That's probably like a foot long, about 12 inches or something like that. It's wooden. It's a nice dark wood, stained, a nice dark, rich mahogany on the outside. And for those that don't know what a shillelagh is, it is a weapon of war and of mass destruction, and it is just a stick with a little like wooden ball on the top. Historically, back in the day, you might put like a stone to make it, or a piece of metal or something like that to make it a little bit more deadly, but this one just has a wooden ball on the top, and it could be crafted from just a single. Actually, I don't know the answer to this. If this was crafted from a single piece of wood, or if the knob on the top is a separate fixture. But regardless of that, and then implanted into the shillelagh itself are little pins, and there are pins in the shape of a three-leaf clover with a little emerald. And then there are pins in the shape of a Spartan helmet with a little ruby. Or not ruby?
Not a Spartan.
Or Trojan. Sorry. Trojan helmet. Sorry. Thank you. Trojan helmet with a little ruby. And these are gold pins that are placed into the shillelagh every so often, and there's one pin for each time they win. There's a little close up here, so the emerald on the three-leaf clover is directly in the center. On the Trojan, the ruby's right at the top where like the crest of the helmet is. And yeah, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous. I see there's a picture. Who is that? Matt Liner or Palmer? Carson Palmer
Carson.
is holding it. Actually, that's interesting. It looks like, so I assume they must take when they run out of space, they must take out the some of the old pins, because the one he's holding looks like it's not nearly full with pins. There's just pins at the top, or they replace the shillelagh altogether.
Wouldn't you like to know?
I would like to know. I'd also like to know. So on the one side, I can see that there is shamrocks etched into it. On the other side, I see an E, but I don't know what else is written on the other side.
Well, why don't I tell you?
And I just want to say real quick. I mean, for me, it just doesn't get better than this. Like it is so cool. It's unique, even though we have had other shillelaghs. It's beautiful. I mean, these gold emblems that they put into there, gold pins that they put in there, they're just works of art. Like it is just a work of art. This trophy is. All right, go ahead, EJ. I will let you continue and tell us. Like this trophy is a work of art.
Yes. Why do I feel like I should know this person? Maybe you'll know him better. Okay, so the Jeweled Shillelagh, just to kind of reinforce a lot of what you said, maybe just give a little bit of extra context here and there. But yes, the Shillelagh itself is a Gaelic war club, like Mike had mentioned, and it's made of oak or blackthorn saplings from Ireland. And according to lore, this is the only woods used because it is the only ones tougher than an Irish skull. Which makes sense, right? If you're going to make a weapon, a lethal weapon, it needs to be stronger than a head that you're trying to smash in, right?
That's
can't just break and then you're like fucked. So
yeah.
It is a foot long shillelagh, and it has ruby adorned Trojan heads with the year and game score representing USC victories, while an emerald studded shamrock stand for Notre Dame wins. And for ties, they combine a Trojan head and shamrock medallion.
Get out of here.
And on the end of the club is engraved "From Emerald Isle." and that's because that's the part of Ireland that it came from. So that's where you're
Oh,
seeing that E.
oh, that's awesome.
So upon its initial presentation in 1952 by the Notre Dame Alumni Club of Los Angeles, it was said that this shillelagh will serve to symbolize in part, the high tradition, the keen rivalry, and above all, the sincere respect which these two universities have for each other. So that was
You
kind
said
of
this the Notre Dame Alumni Club of Los Angeles, or
yes, that
okay.
came up with the idea in 1952.
I really, this the second or third trophy that we've had this season, where it's the alumni club in the other like school's city that like comes up with it. I forget what the other ones have been, but I really like that when it's like these are people who are supplanted from where they went to school, but they all get together and they're like, you know what,
Yeah.
let's do that. That's like the second or third time this happened. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, they were the people that basically said like Mrs. Rockney had it right? Like
Yeah,
why the
yeah,
fuck are we
yeah.
staying here in South Bend? Let's go the fuck out to Los Angeles, right? She was the head of it, Once he was done, she was like,
There's
we have our summer home in Los Angeles.
right there. The Defiant Ones, the 4-part miniseries on HBO, where it's talking
I've
about
heard of
Dr.
it. I've never
Dre.
seen it.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Oh, I know what we're doing. So I've watched it. I mean, I watch it at least once a year. After it came out, I think I probably watched like a dozen times after it came out. But so Jimmy Iovine, for those that don't know him, one of the greatest album producers of all time. He ran Interscope Records for a while. Like he's awesome. Um, when he first went out to LA, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers put him out there to help produce their one of their albums, one of their first albums, and he's from New York, right? He's out there and in Hollywood, right? He goes down. He's at his hotel and he goes down to the front doorman. And he's like, "Hey, do normal people live out here?" And the guy's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, are there like normal people out here?" He's like, I work at the front desk at a hotel. I'm a normal person. He's like, "Are there docks here?" He's like, "Are there docks? This is the biggest shipping capital in the world." And Jimmy says he went right back upstairs. He called his mom. He's like, "Mom, how did we get this so wrong?" Because Jimmy's dad was a longshoreman in Long Island, New York,
Yeah.
So he's just like, how? We had two options. Why did we choose that one as opposed to this one? So
Yeah.
I when you mentioned, the folks from South Bend that chose to go to greener pastures, that just automatically sparked that memory for me. Great. How Defiant Ones is incredible because there's great music throughout and like the cool, a lot of people know Dr. Dre, obviously, even in pop culture and stuff like that. The stuff about Jimmy is just like he's a relative unknown to so many, and he's just like the goat. Like he is incredible. But anyways, go ahead.
So the original shillelagh was flown from Ireland, according to legend, by Howard Hughes's pilot. That's where I had to look up Howard Hughes. Like I get the business magnate.
Yeah.
What am I missing though? Like what did he? Was he famous for founding a company? I feel like I recognize the name, but I couldn't like quite place like how I
So
knew him.
Howard
Said
Hughes
he
was
was
a
an
media
aerospace
mogul.
engineer.
Oh, yeah,
Media.
he was mainly from films is how I know him.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Howard Hughes. Okay.
Yeah.
Film producer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He
That
was
sounds
yeah.
Scarface.
Yes.
He produced big budgets, Hell's Angels,
Um
Scarface. Sorry, guys, for people that are screaming at me right now.
The Aviator was
I'm
was
sorry.
the Leonardo DiCaprio
That's
movie,
what it
The
was.
Aviator.
Okay.
That's Howard
Yes.
Hughes. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, as soon as I heard Howard Hughes, I was like, why does that sound so familiar? But I just couldn't quite place.
Yeah. Aerospace engineer, business magnet, movie producer, like he's
Okay.
yeah.
Well, allegedly, his pilot, which is saying something, for him to have a pilot,
Yeah.
it flew this original shillelagh from Ireland. It was devised, like I had mentioned, by the Notre Dame Alumni Club of Los Angeles, and it was based on the suggestion by Vern Rickard. And then a fellow named John Groan designed it. And although the shillelagh was introduced in 1952, the medallions go back to the start of the series in 1926. I could not find out what that meant. So I think a lot of the other sources sourced, I believe Murray talking about this, but I couldn't find it. The USC website casually has that like line in it without any sourcing. So I have no idea how those medallions were used or where they were
They
placed.
probably just added them. They probably just went ahead and like added them in afterwards. You know, like when they're like, "Oh, we're doing this trophy."
Is that what they mean by that?
Let's make a bunch of medallions from 1926 on.
You're right.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds okay. That sounds so much like the way that it was written. I was like, "What do you mean?" Like they already making medallions, and we're like, "The fuck are we gonna do with all these things?"
Yeah, like Girl Scout coin, like you get a little challenge coin. Yeah, Girl Scout pins, a little challenge coin. Yeah, yeah.
That makes a lot more sense. That they also just went back retroactively and added them.
By the way, the first half of this episode, I've been struggling. Like I don't know why. I physically don't feel very good. Like I feel a little ill. I think it's partially because I have this massive pain on my right side that could be, you know, you Google it and like one thing is like, the first thing that pops up actually is overuse of the muscle. And I did like yesterday morning, which is weird because like yesterday morning I did planks at the end of my, like a long plank thing at the end of my workout. And I was like, oh, I guess that's probably it. But then you keep reading, it's like I'm dying. So, right. But either way, I kept for the reason why I grabbed the whiskey because I'm like, I don't need beer right now. I need something that's going to make me feel a lot better than I do right now. So I feel great now. The medicine's kicked in, folks.
Right.
So,
right, just in time for us to be wrapping this up. So when the originally,
you know us, man. We could go. Who knows what tangent we could go in?
What word is going to trigger a tangent here? Let's see here.
I had to be fair with Murray. I was sitting there thinking, like, how can I make this more interesting? But gosh, he is just a boring guy.
Yeah.
When you talk about finances and stuff like that, like no shit. You know, finance mode. I honestly perked up as soon as you mentioned the wife thing.
Yeah.
And then that was, I think, a little bit of like serotonin from that. Okay. And then the medicine on top of it, I think just got me going here. So,
well, as you astutely pointed out in the Carson Palmer picture where the shillelagh is definitely half, maybe even more of a third full and not fully medallioned. Well, that was because the original shillelagh ran out of space in after the 1989 game. So it was retired and permanently is on permanent display at Notre Dame. So when we go to South Bend in a couple of years, we are going to go visit that bad boy.
Yeah, how did they decide that Notre Dame gets to keep it? That's interesting.
Because I don't know if it's because their alum are the ones that
could be.
And just I assume the ties to Ireland.
Did they say anything about how they came up with the shillelagh? I guess because again in the Notre Dame Alumni Club, and they're like, well, you know, they're fighting Irish Trojans or warriors. It's a lot. Oh, got an idea now. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
And I believe because I looked back because we did touch on one. I think we've touched heavily on one shillelagh, I believe, with Purdue. I believe we touched in that episode. I don't think we did a full episode on Northwestern's shillelagh with Notre Dame, but those were date back to the 30s. So I wonder if it was just something that the shillelagh was already a thing that Notre Dame was doing for trophies. So. They did not get into it, but I think this is a third of the 3 shillelaghs. So I think it just made sense. And then they put a little zhuzh on it for, the LA.
Zhuzh.
So the new shillelagh, which is slightly longer than the original, like you had said, it's 12 inches. So this one's a little bit longer. It was commissioned by Jim Gillis who was a former baseball player at both USC and Notre Dame, and a one-time president of the Notre Dame Club of Los Angeles. It was handcrafted in 1997 in County Leitrim in Ireland, but the medallions go back to the 1990s. So it was full in 89, and it sounds like there was not a shillelagh. There was an additional medallions created until the 97 when this new one came out, and then they backdated and added the other medallions to it. So there are two shillelaghs, one that is permanently in South Bend, and the current one that is being passed between the two schools. And I imagine there will be eventually a third one relatively soon. I don't know how many medallions are on each one. It looks like
well, you figure they went from 1926 to 89. Oh god. Yeah. Oh god. Oh god.
So 60.
Hold on. Let me just 26 to 89. That's 63 years. That's easy math, right? And then this is gonna hurt you and it's gonna hurt me. It hurts me. It's gonna hurt you.
Are we already
it's gonna hurt some of our listeners.
We're halfway there.
89. Right? That's like 20 pins. And then I was like, no, that's 35.
35.
Pins.
Yeah.
That's 35. That oh, that hurts so bad. That hurts. That is the meanest. People like rag on millennials and all that shit. Hey, assholes. Hey, boomers. Hey, Gen Alpha, whatever your fucking name is. How about you try being born in a time where your age crosses the millennium, and then you have a real hard, because I imagine if you were born like in the 1900s, you have a real easy time. Someone says if you were born in 1920 and it's 1970, you don't think like, oh, that was 40 years ago. No, you think it was 50 years ago because math is easy. But no, when you're born in 89, it's 2024. You're like, oh yeah, that was like 20. No, that was 35 fucking years ago. And that's the cross that we have to bear as millennials. And I don't think any other generation appreciates that shit. It's brutal. It's brutal. It's brutal. I almost threw up.
Well, that'd be a good time to say that's all I have for you, and we're on to the rankings.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I said it. I said off the top, right? 5. Like this is like the trophy for me, like I think much like Floyd of Rosedale was for you. Like as soon as I saw this thing, like I think this is actually one of my this is probably the first trophy I was aware of, like in college football. Like even though I did not become a huge college football fan until I was in college, like I knew about the Jeweled Shillelagh. I was aware of it. Like USC Notre Dame is like, this is kind of leaning into my some other rankings, but I think it's also one of those games that like, if someone says to you college football, what is a matchup that you think of? This is that matchup for me. And I think it's that matchup for a lot of people who like, even if you aren't a college football fan, this is something, it's a thing, right? The glitz and glamour of LA, and then like the hard-nosed smash mouth football tradition, and the tradition and the majesty around Notre Dame. It's something you think about. I think it helps that both their schools have gold in it too. There's just something like the aura surrounding these schools is just incredible. So yeah, that is a super long-winded way of me saying 5.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's so.
If you hit me with like a 3 right now, we are fighting.
What I will say is, one of the things I was thinking was this is the third of 3 shillelaghs, and while shillelagh is obviously very unique within itself, this is the third version of it. However, the other versions do not have those sick medallions, and even just like getting a closer view of it, where it had the knob and it had like the etching of the shamrocks and stuff like that. That puts it above The other ones clearly, even if it wasn't necessarily like original at this point. So I will also say it's a 5.
You know what? First off, when I look up Shillelagh rivalry trophy, the only thing that comes up is the Shillelagh trophy. Uh, you know, if I just kind of look, because I gotta get the other ones here in my head. Oh gosh, it's so hard to find pictures of the other ones. I mean, the battle for the Shillelagh, like, just doesn't. Actually, that is kind of sick. The Purdue one,
Yeah.
Purdue and Notre Dame.
I mean, it is. Don't get me wrong. It is. The other ones are like the idea of a shillelagh and then it actually having to come from Ireland, like that is sick. In this case, it sucks that this one is the third one, but they did make it unique from the other ones, which I
Yeah,
can appreciate.
I gotta say the Purdue one's kind of dope. Well, who's the other one? It was Purdue and Notre Dame
Northwestern
and Northwestern.
and Notre Dame.
Boy, maybe Notre Dame's just gotta dig into the bag of tricks. Maybe this is where we need to spend some time at the end of this episode and
Yeah.
figure out what else. I actually have an idea. Um, yeah, I mean to be honest, the Purdue one's kind of dope. It has a lot going for it. It's not better than Jeweled Shillelagh. So sorry, you said
I
5.
mean, where did you rank it? We've that was an episode.
Let's see. We gotta go back. What was that? That was
Season 1.
season 1. Gosh, you know how much has happened to us season 1 and now. 4
Yeah.
kids between the two of us.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Shillelagh Trophy. Oh, I was an asshole in season 1. I was a real dickhead. Wait, hold on. No, there's the Shillelagh Trophy. Did we do both?
We might have done the other one too.
I don't think we did. I don't think because I've got the Shillelagh Trophy, which is Notre Dame and Purdue. I don't think we did battle for the Shillelagh.
No, because if I remember correctly, I want to say like I don't even know if it's in circulation anymore or they don't play regularly enough.
It isn't.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So I think it was just a footnote. Yeah, I feel like it was just a footnote
Yeah.
when we talked about the Purdue one, and then obviously we gave
I was an
teaser
asshole. I gave this
4
a
years
3.
in the.
I gave this thing a 3. That was way crude of me. Having children changed me. No, I mean,
No, it's having seen. I mean, if you think about it, we've seen at least 60 trophies now. At
that's
least
true.
that's
I've
what
seen some
we've
real
done.
stinkers. Yeah.
15, at least 15 seasons. I think the minimum we've done is 15. The Big Ten, we did even more, and we might have done a little bit more in the SEC too. So at least 60 trophies. So now we have so much more perspective on what's good, what we liked.
Let me throw something out to you. Let me just shot out of a cannon. What if we did a redemption episode where like we kind of look back, like we each kind of go through the notes from the previous episodes, and we have to see if we think we have to go back and actually do the research. I think before we agree to do this episode, but like it really would probably be based on looks. Then I think a little bit more about history, rivalry stuff, because that's kind of set in stone. But like we do a redemption where it's like some of those first ones where we may be a little too harsh and like because I feel like at the beginning we were really stingy on 5s. We were like super. No, no, the ones we gave 5s, man, the Big Ten has a lot of good trophies. A lot of good trophies.
That's the. I mean, like I said, I was aware of a decent amount of them because of just my fandom being in the Big Ten. But yeah, no, I feel like that was like the birthplace of. I mean, it was right when you come down to the it all come down to the little brown jug. But
I think this is my little brown jug, so it's got to be a 5. But also, I did find our biggest difference between two trophies on looks. You know it.
Is it the bucket?
No. Bucket, we were there, 4 and 4, aligned
Okay.
completely. I like the bucket. I like how it looks.
Didn't think it
Oh,
represented
I
the
was
state
so
of
mean
Indiana.
on history. I said 2. That was a great story. Like that's a 5. Like that was a 5. That was such a good story.
Yeah, that was on the. You were a little bit in a different
We were
mood.
we were in a bad. Yeah, we should redo the old. No, we can't redo the episode. We should actually just replay the episode. What a podcast that would be. We replay the episode and we stop and give commentary, or like we give commentary over the episode as it's happening. That would be something. It's like the directors or the director, not director's cut, but like when you watch the DVDs with the audio commentary,
Yeah,
that's what we should do. No, it's the land grant trophy.
I know you love it. I
I fucking
hate
love
that
it.
ugly
I
ass fucking
fucking
thing.
love it. You want to get me a Christmas gift? That
I
that website that sells the replicas. Give me a fucking land grant. I'll put it right on the shelf here.
listen. I looked.
I will put that fucker on the shelf
I
in
I
full
know you would.
view of
I
everyone I
looked.
do conversations with at work.
Listen, I already. Well, the website is specific to Big Ten, which obviously in that particular. So I don't know if it has that one. It's probably too ugly to make replicas of.
Fuck you.
I've looked at that Legends trophy. I remembered your point there with the beautiful Legends trophy that we talked about earlier this season. I took a gander, but that website was specific to Big Ten trophies and not trophies between Stanford and Notre Dame.
Rivalrytrophy.com. Love you guys, by the way. No free ads, but you guys for sure get a free ad because you guys are the goat. See Paul Bunyan, Spittoon. They got Paul Bunyan hats. EJ, they got Paul Bunyan hats.
I mean, Paul Bunyan. There's two trophies in his name.
Oh, I'm getting you a Christmas gift. I'm getting you a Christmas gift. That's too good for you to not have it. No, they don't. They don't have the land grant.
Shocker.
I'm gonna.
Oh no.
I'm gonna write them a request. Say for the. It's probably too difficult to make into a mini replica because it's so intricate, which I love about it. It's so intricate.
It looks like the fucking Shiva trophy from the league. Like it's just
dude.
like a
dude.
trophy with like a bunch of random
dude.
shit.
That's what I said. I'm pretty sure during
To it.
I'm pretty sure during the episode I said this is something an 8th grader would make for like the science fair or something like that. Yeah. Like hell yeah. Hell yeah, it does, man. It's awesome. It's fucking awesome. Okay.
Rankings, history.
It's like on the one hand fucking Murray, and on the other hand the actual reason.
No, history of the trophy, we will say. The rivalry that's more of like the history of the rivalry, I would say.
Super old, which I love. Ornate. I like that the alumni club of Notre Dame in LA made it. No theft though. Not a lot of especially compared to like the last couple stories that we had with like the axe and the victory bell and stuff like that. Like
and I think what has to, because I thought about that a lot, because I think, for me, the rivalries is probably not going to. It's tricky for me because I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're thousands of miles away from each other. Like, what fucking student is traveling on their own dime across the country to hopefully try and take something versus going 30 miles?
A dedicated one, EJ. A dedicated student.
These ones aren't dedicated enough, apparently.
They're not. But I don't want to give them an out on that. So I'm going to say 3.5.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I like the how old it is. I like the idea. I like the I like the thought behind it being a shillelagh. But because there isn't a ton of other history on like why, and the fact that it was the third shillelagh for Notre Dame at that point. I think it's just a 3.5 for me.
That That actually really hurts it. The fact that it was
It
the
does.
third Shillelagh that they had at that point, that
Yeah,
does hurt it. But it's the best. It's also the third iteration's the best. It's like
sure. No,
first is
they
the
definitely
worst.
improved upon it. I think they made it unique, and I think it is on point too. Because when you're talking like Midwestern against Midwestern teams, like you're not thinking of jewels, right? But
Yeah.
when you're thinking of
La La Land.
right, when you're thinking of Los Angeles coupled with one of the more prestigious schools in the Midwest, even though South Bend itself is nothing to ride home about, but Notre Dame and the university itself definitely is. So, yeah, I think they added the right like that was okay to jewel it up and zhuzh it up, but
Yeah.
yeah, only a 3.5 for me.
The rivalry
Rivalry.
itself.
This one had me conflicted, so I'll go first on this one. So this one
Yeah.
was conflicting for me because it is one of the biggest college football rivalries, and more times than not,
I think you and
both
I are on the same page based on how you're going, but go ahead.
both programs are typically very good. At USC, it's been a while, and unfortunately, we were really, hoping this could potentially be a year. Obviously, getting Lincoln Riley is a big deal. He's a great coach, but they aren't quite there, right? And you could argue maybe Notre Dame this year specifically probably wouldn't be there either had they played a real schedule. But
Yeah, but hold on. But if Notre Dame beats NIU, like if they beat Northern Illinois, we're
they would have done their job, right? But
yeah,
it's
but
not
like
like
we're
they
also
had.
talking about them in a completely different. And Grant, had they not lost to NIU, maybe they sleepwalk through another one of these games. But like
Sure,
we
sure.
are talking about them in such a. They might be number one. They might be the number one seed. Well, number two. Oregon has to be number one, but they're probably number two
Yeah,
at this point.
I guess where I would where in this particular year, not always, and I will say to Notre Dame's credit, they do slog through regardless of their schedule. They usually don't disappoint as far
They
as
beat the
beating the
shit
teams
out of
they
these
should.
teams. They beat the shit out of Army.
But would they be a 3-loss team in the Big Ten or the SEC? And I would say probably. Maybe not in the Big 12 and maybe not in the ACC
For
because I know
sure not in the Big
ACC is
12.
kind
Big
of
12's terrible. I
right.
don't think in the ACC either. But
Maybe given a tough schedule, like playing the top
this year,
teams in the ACC, but I
well, it's hard to say though, EJ, because like this year in the SEC, I think probably not because I don't think anyone in the SEC is very good this year. But like in the Big Ten, hey, hand up, big Kurt Signe fan. But like honestly, who they really beat,
I
you
I think they
know?
beat Indiana. Or no, I think Indiana beats them. I
No,
think Penn
oh,
State. I think Penn State plays a good game. I think Ohio State and Oregon beat them. I think Indiana and Penn State are to the wire winner, like, but not. I wouldn't guarantee, but I would say to the wire because you have to remember Notre Dame's Riley Leonard has not been what he
that's true. That's
was
true.
at Duke.
Yeah,
They're running the ball great. He's doing a great job running the ball as a running quarterback. They're not slinging the pill.
no,
So I don't know. Like I think they would be 2 losses and then maybe sleepwalking through a third. In the SEC, like I don't know. I think of Georgia and Alabama. I mean, it depends on where they're playing, but I think when you're breaking down, you know, Georgia and Tennessee and Ole Miss and Texas and A&M, like I think not to say they're all guaranteed losses.
hmm
Obviously, what A&M beat them? They beat A&M. They beat
they
A&M.
beat A&M. Yeah,
Beginning of the
first
year.
game of the season.
Missouri, like I think it would depend. That's all. So this particular iteration of Notre Dame, like I said, I think most years they take care of business and they're always in the conversation, and that's a credit because
Yeah.
you can sleepwalk, right? There's plenty of programs that haven't done that, but
What if?
I don't know.
Well, let me run this past you. What if Notre Dame gets to the playoff? Like first snap of the game, they come out in like a tight formation, and all of a sudden they spread them wide. and they're running like air raid offense, like the threat, like they slept
Listen.
walk through these teams, like they beat all these teams running completely, but like in the meantime, they've been running like air raid. And like Mike Leach is actually alive, like, and he comes on the silence like, "Fuck off! That's Mike Leach's music," and they're like just running. And Riley Leonard is just like lighting it up.
The best thing that happened to them was LSU poaching Brian Kelly. Actually,
Oh,
the best thing that happened to them was Michigan State paying Mel Tucker that then forced LSU to poach Brian Kelly. Because I do like Marcus Freeman, and I think
great.
he'll figure out an offensive coordinator because the defense he handles, and he's great at that. And they're always good at recruiting, so that's not the problem. I think Brian Kelly being gone was a great thing for them.
Yeah, I agree.
But
how did we
anyway?
Get here?
So that's why it's tricky for me with them. But to get back,
how did we get here?
The rivalry.
How did we even get?
So I because we talked about them usually being competitive against each other, but this year USC is not. In the last few years, USC has not been that, and Notre Dame has been that. But this year, I think they're not as good as their record shows, just because of their strength of schedule. But because there isn't that on camp, like going to campus. I mean, I just saw a video. I actually should have sent it to you of someone stole Brutus from Columbus and threw him, and then in the action, in the security footage of him throwing it, Brutus kicked him in the fucking back of the head, which was awesome. But because of that,
nothing Brutus does is awesome, but fair.
It was. It's obviously because of the distance. It's not because of the lack of vitriol, say, between the two schools, but because of the just sheer distance. They don't have that, or at least it's not documented. I would be shocked if there was. So for that, it's only going to be a 4 for me, and that might be harsh, but I think it's because they lack that Brutus watch and Tommy Trojan watch and all of that stuff, right? So that's where I'll put it. But clearly, it matters to both schools, and it's usually a great football game and great trophy. But for now, for me, it's just got to be a 4 in the rivalry.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this is kind of what I said earlier. That like this is something that like even when I was not watching college football religiously when I was younger, this is something I was like, this and Texas Oklahoma are two things that I was like keenly aware of, and like if it was on, I was interested in watching it, and it feels like America's rivalry. Like it feels like the whole U.S. of red blood Americans get behind this as being a rivalry. Even in The Godfather, I don't know if you know this. Fun fact.
Godfather I almost brought it up. There's 2 movies that, yes.
I don't know the second one, but Godfather Part 2 is famous for having this game on in the background when Michael and what's his face? Help me out. The Jewish guy.
All it said in the snippet, like I it's been a while since I've seen that movie, so it just said that when Corleone was going to I forgot. He was traveling to a city and then he had it.
They were in Cuba. Oh gosh. Who's he talking to? Hyman Roth. When Hyman Roth and Michael Corleone are talking, this game's on in the background.
There's also another famous one. Do you want to play that game?
I don't know the second one. I'd love to know what it is. Do you want? You can give me hints. I'll start guessing.
Well, I know one that'll.
Yeah, don't
give it to you immediately.
What year? Decade.
Ooh, you're really gonna pull this out on me? 90s, early 90s.
Okay.
I don't think it's an 80s movie. I think it's a very early 90s, or if it is 80s, it's got to be 89.
Okay.
Die
Hard.
Yes.
Is it? Is that what Hans has on whenever he's in her office?
When they're in the building, and one of the
the
guns.
security guards watching.
Yes,
Yeah, the
yes.
security guards watching. I got $30 on them bastards.
Yep.
Wow. Die Hard is 89. Or no.
Okay, I was just I knew it was like
92.
it was either like late 80s, early 90s.
No. I don't think. No, hold on. Die Hard is 1990. 88. 88. Okay.
88. Okay. I feel like it's not what I think of when I think of an 80s music or movie, but I knew it could have been at the end of that.
By the way, like for people that are on YouTube, like I know if you're listening, you think maybe like I typed something in, or EJ mouthed something to me. No. I'm literally sitting here, hand in the air, and when thinking of the year, and it helps that it is one of my favorite Christmas movies. It is.
I was going to say that was one. So it was like either I was going to say something about Severus Snape.
I didn't know that. I knew that he was watching USC. Yeah. I didn't know that he was watching. You were going to say Severus Snape and what else?
It's one of, it's a common Christmas movie that's not a Christmas movie that is a Christmas movie. And that would have definitely been it. But that's what I was trying to think of other ways to get there. But even saying like it's Severus, there's only so many Alan Rickman movies that like people would talk about.
Honestly, with both of those clues,
yeah,
it could have been one of my. I have like a top 5 of Christmas movies.
Yeah,
and both of those clues lead me to one of my top 5 movies: Die Hard and Love Actually. Because Alan Rickman's also in Love Actually.
That's right.
Although it would be very odd for Alan Rickman in London.
Yeah, I was saying London.
USC Notre Dame.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
while cheating on his wife, right?
Oh God. That honestly, if there was like one, like it's a necessary plot point to have.
Sure.
Like I love Emma Thompson. I love Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
For that to be a plot point, it just tears me up. Like, I hope that
that's what they were trying to do.
In my mind, he never actually cheated on her. He was tempted. He bought her the jewelry. They didn't actually have sex. It wasn't sex in a necklace. It was just a necklace. And then he's trying to win back her trust. And eventually he does. And yes, well, that's me being the eternal optimist. But wow, that's maybe my best movie pool of all time. But anyways, go ahead.
Competitiveness. We were really the juice has gotten us, has really slogged us through these.
I knew it would. 3.5. I just, I have to. Where I was going with all of this is it feels like it is more so a rivalry for college football fans to be like, why do you like, if someone says who's not a college football fan says, why do you like college football? I point to this. I say like this. What does a Catholic university in Indiana have any business caring about a school in Los Angeles? Right. And you point to this and like it brings two programs with great traditions together with something valuable to fight over. And I think that that's a very cool thing. But at the same time, I feel like the rivalry between the student bodies is probably very cordial. There's probably a lot of good games happening, not a lot of fights happening in the stands. People are just happy to win. If they lose, it's like not the end of the world. It's not like, I'm still torn up about Third Saturday of October from fucking 2021, much less the one that just happened this year, right? So that's why I'm taking a hefty amount of points off for that. Like, I just don't feel like I weight more strongly the rivalry between the student body. I feel like that's not there. So yeah, they 100%. They care, but it's like a nice feather in the cap, as opposed to I'm literally going to drink Clorox and lay on the freeway because we lost this game.
For sure. Okay, competitiveness.
It's pretty close, man. I want to say when these schools are humming, they're humming. Unfortunately, they've both been down a little bit recently. So I'm going to say 4.5.
Yeah, that's where I was going with it.
Yeah.
There's been over the course of the rivalry, so Notre Dame's up 12, but over the course, there's been kind of runs for both schools. And recently it's been a bit more Notre Dame than USC, but so that's why I wouldn't say it's like, a five, but I would say it's usually it's competitive, and I feel like there's very rarely a moment where like one school's dog shit, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
either they're usually both, really good, or they're both like mediocre at the same time. Obviously a school wins, but yeah, I don't think it's where, one school is just always terrible and only has a run or two in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Uh,
overall, where does that put us?
Gotta be top tier for me.
I mean, I know we gave it fives for looks. I will put it top tier, but it's probably flirting with mid tier because of the other components of the rivalry,
And,
not the trophy itself.
and that's where, I usually say let the data aside. Let's look at the data and, see where our composite score gets us. Our composite score does get us to 4.19, which is, definitely within the top tier. We actually had one other trophy this year that was 4.19. It was the Legends Trophy, and we put that in the top tier as well. We had a 4.16 Apple Cup top tier. So we are being consistent with the data as an aggregate. I just think that we'd be frauds if we didn't put this in the top tier. Like I know there's some things that this is an interesting one because we really value the history of like some long-standing history that comes from the student bodies doing things to, really juice up the rivalry. And you don't have any of that here. So that by itself would, if any other trophy, if you can tell me the school's involved, you can tell me the trophy, you just told me how it was made and the history of it, I would probably say it's a mid tier or maybe even a low tier. But the fact it's these two schools and what the trophy is itself, that I think has to be top tier.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I said, it's top tier, but it's for me in my mind, regardless of where the numbers, it's because the two big components, right? The trophy itself, out of the park. Although, like I said, like I wish it wasn't the third version of it, but they at least nailed it for these two schools. But yeah, that rivalry part of it is just it's missing, and it's tough because we just went through two, including one with USC rivalries where there
Yep.
was that component we're
Yep.
really looking for. So it doesn't compare. While obviously Notre Dame USC is a much better draw than USC, UCLA, or Stanford and Cal. Those rivalries, like we're talking about it, like we're in on the Trojan walk. Like we're
Yeah.
we're 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 gonna be fucking protecting Tommy Trojan next year. So
Yeah. And we're going to
we're
the
gonna be
Cal
knights.
Bonfire.
We're gonna get
Yes.
fucking knighted.
Yeah.
So that's where it's tricky for me. But like I said, it's top tier. But I would say for me personally, it's definitely the rivalry aspect of it is making it flirt with middle tier, but not the trophy itself.
Um, as you're talking, I anticipated your next question of what would you change? So I tried to Google something. My Google search was did Trojans use? And the first result that pops up is do Trojans use spermicide?
Okay.
And like my mind, like that's why like I stopped. I was like, I can't interrupt DJ right now. I need to wait. I need to hold this in. My first thought, I see now, I see now that like they mean the Trojan condoms,
Yes.
but like my first thought was like Trojans back in the day, like when they were raping and pillaging, did they use spermicide? Wait, hold on a sec before I rape the women of this young village here. Let me throw on some spermicide. I don't want to have any kids running around. Although I'm probably gonna cut her head off once I'm done here. Like let me
Yeah.
just make sure there's no chance of procreation. Uh, anyways, what would I change about the trophy? I had an idea.
Okay. Interesting. There isn't. I wasn't even going to ask because typically, if it's a five, there's
Yeah,
nothing to change.
yeah. I know. Well, however, you have really been harping on this being the third shillelagh that Notre Dame has used. And I was like, interesting. Let me think about that a little bit more. What weapons did Trojans use? And I initially thought of a gladius, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure a gladius is only used by Roman soldiers. And that actually let me check to see, did Trojans use a gladius? No, Trojans did not use a gladius, as the gladius was the sword primarily used by Roman soldiers. Makes sense. Trojans used a Trojan war sword. But the Trojan War also happened much earlier than the Roman era when the gladius was used. So it was a Trojan war sword was what the Trojans used. But I think let's see, Trojan war sword. So it's fancy. They just have replicas of King Agamemnon and Hector of Troy's swords. So it's somewhat similar to a gladius, sort of King Odysseus. So I was thinking, I was like, well, what if instead of just the shillelagh, what if we spiced it up a little bit? What if, you have a Trojan war sword that is like decked out, right? It has a gold blade. It has a bright cardinal red or scarlet or whatever Trojan's red is called or USC's red is called handle to it, and then you have the shillelagh, right? That's and maybe it's I do like it being like a darker looking wood. I think that makes sense given the type of wood that they use, but perhaps some green accents with like green shamrocks on it, or perhaps not even shamrocks, like some Celtic runes on it.
Okay.
And like if you win, so I like how was it was the Stanford Axe where the teams stand there at the beginning of the fourth quarter and like wait to hand it off. The team that loses bequeaths their weapon to the other team,
Okay.
like and then the other team can take the weapon around. And the trouble is with the sword, obviously, it's a fucking sword. That's although shillelagh, I mean, as long as they have the helmets on, it's okay. But if you
Yeah.
get them to zoom by, it's a bit of a problem. But like,
It is harder than an Irish skull, so I'm going to assume that that's all of our skulls are probably equal
yeah, yeah.
in
Well, I don't
hardness.
know. I'm Irish. I have a pretty thick one here, but only a quarter Irish. But yeah, I think that could be an interesting kind of play on it, where like you have the defeated warrior gets down on a knee and bequeaths their weapon to and then you can display. Oh, this would be cool too. Oh, here we go. I'm cooking now. You have a big plaque, like a big wooden plaque,
Okay.
right? And you can cross them on the plaque, right? And you bequeath it, right? And then whoever wins, the shillelagh. Like if Notre Dame wins, the shillelagh is on top of the because you would cross them, right? So the shillelagh you would cross the shillelagh and the sword. If the Irish win, the shillelagh is on top. If the USC wins, the swords on top, and then you have things at the bottom. So that way it gets on the field. You have the separate plaque that's easy to display. Could be an interesting thing, though. It's hard for me to go away from the concept of like adding those emblems in. Like I think that the thing that makes this so special and so much better than the other shillelaghs is the pins that they put into it.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be really hard for me to go away from that, but it's an idea.
Sure. No, I do like the idea of bringing because it's very much an Irish thing. So bringing a little bit more of USC to it, um, I think would be a plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this game is going to be played, like I had mentioned, this Saturday on Rivalry Weekend. It is a 3:30 game on CBS, and the game is in Los Angeles because it is being played in November.
Does that mean I listen to fucking Gary Danielson call this game? I thought I was.
Yes. The Irish are currently, or at least when I looked at the line yesterday, were favored by 7.5. It's interesting.
Sounds like free money to me. I actually, too, I looked at the Friday board, got a real predicament. Because there's a couple games I like. On Friday.
Don't be like the leader last week that went biscuit X, other pick X, and they were no longer the leader. With only a couple weeks left.
Prior to this past week, I went big. The past 2 weeks, I went biscuit, hit, every other pick, miss. So thankfully this week I did get 3 points. Hell yeah. But I might take an early biscuit and then depending on if it wins, go for my second pick on top. I might even put it in just like I have to check the kickoff times and stuff like that, but I might just do my second pick, like for sure will be another game on Friday. There's a bunch of games on Friday that I like.
There is, and it's definitely a Friday heavy board this week. So just a reminder to our pick'em listeners, our challenge listeners, that this is the last time you can use a biscuit. I messaged everyone before, but you don't have to use a biscuit on a Friday game or a Thursday game. You can just choose regularly games. If you want.
There's no Thursday college.
It's just today, Wednesday, and Friday.
Wednesday, Tulane plays tomorrow. That's the only Wednesday game. Thursday's all pro, and then Friday, yeah.
Oh yeah, because of Thanksgiving. That's right. Okay.
Gobble.
All right, so that's going to do it for us this week. Follow us on Instagram at whiskers.whiskies, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then, like I mentioned, we're probably going to take a break for next week. But then the following week, we'll be back to revisit our college football conference championships and our playoff predictions. And we're going to see how we did. I think at this point in time, we definitely have some things that are going very well for us, some that are dead in the water. But I'd be interested to see kind of how it all shakes out and how both of us did individually, but then, together as a podcast, how we did. Last year we did pretty damn good.
I wish FanDuel would just close my ticket on Oklahoma State to win the Big 12. I wish they would just cancel that bad boy. I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen unless the entirety of the Big 12 gets marshaled. On their way to their next games, which would also require playing script. I'm gonna stop there. Anyway,
so for Mike, I'm EJ. Always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey, it's barely enough, right?
Fucking A, right? Cheers, boys.